Abeni clutched her newborn son tightly, his cries soft and fragile in the quiet of the night. The warmth of his tiny body seemed to anchor her to the moment, but the weight of her decision made her feel like she was sinking. Outside, the winds howled, rattling the wooden shutters of their modest home. The fire in the hearth flickered weakly, struggling against the chill that seeped into the room. Suddenly, the wind stopped. Silence fell, thick and heavy, pressing down on Abeni's chest like a stone. The flames in the hearth dimmed to an eerie glow, casting long, flickering shadows across the room. And then she felt it, another presence. From the shadows, a figure emerged, draped in a crimson cloak that seemed to absorb the light. The woman's face was hidden in the depths of her hood, but her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Are you ready to honor our deal?" she asked, her tone smooth yet colder than the night air. Abeni's hands trembled as she tightened her grip on the baby. I can't do this," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. The woman stepped closer, the edges of her cloak brushing against the floor as she moved. "Wealth always comes at a price, Abeni. Did you think you could take without giving?" Tears welled in Abeni's eyes. She had made the deal in a moment of desperation, blinded by the promise of a better life. But now, faced with the reality of her choice, she felt her resolve crumbling. "Please, just give me more time," she begged. The woman laughed softly, a sound that sent shivers down Abeni's spine. "Time? You have already received your reward." She gestured to the corner of the room, where a small pouch of gold glinted in the firelight. "Now, it is time for me to collect what is mine." Abeni's heart shattered as she held out her son. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her tears falling onto his tiny face. The crimson-cloaked woman took the baby gently, cradling him in her arms. "Your son will serve a purpose greater than you can imagine," she said. And then, with a swirl of her cloak, she disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind only the faint scent of smoke. Abeni collapsed to the floor, sobbing. She had traded her child for a handful of gold, and no amount of wealth could fill the void in her heart. Abeni's life had always been marked by struggle. Born into a poor farming family on the outskirts of the Nyandu Kingdom, she had grown up surrounded by the unrelenting toil of survival. Her family's farm was small and failing, their crops often withered by drought or devoured by locusts. Each day was a battle against hunger, and each night brought the same restless dreams of a better life. Abeni hated the dirt under her nails, the ache in her back, and the emptiness in her stomach. She hated the life she had been born into, but most of all, she hated the hopelessness that clung to her like a shadow. One night, as she sat alone by the dying embers of the cooking fire, a strange wind blew through the hut. The flames flickered wildly, casting eerie patterns on the walls. And then, out of the darkness, a figure appeared. The woman was tall and imposing, her crimson cloak billowing as though caught in an unseen breeze. Her face was hidden, but her eyes glowed like embers in the darkness. "You desire more, do you not?" the woman asked, her voice both soothing and sinister. Abeni stared at her, too stunned to speak. The woman stepped closer, her presence filling the room like smoke. "I can give you wealth beyond your imagination," she said, "but it comes at a cost." "What cost?" Abeni asked, her voice trembling. "For every child you bear," the woman said, "I will grant you a year of prosperity, but the children will be mine. They will belong to me, taken away the night they are born." Abeni hesitated, her mind racing. She thought of her family's struggles, the endless hunger, and the constant fear of losing everything. The promise of wealth was too tempting to resist. "I agree," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman smiled, her teeth glinting like knives. "Then we have a deal." Abeni's first child was born a year later, a beautiful baby boy with a cry that pierced the heart. True to her word, the crimson-cloaked woman appeared that night to collect him.
Abeni wept as she handed over her son, but the next morning her family awoke to find their hut filled with treasures, gold coins, silk cloth, and jars of rare spices. The village buzzed with rumors of divine intervention, and Abeni's family celebrated their newfound fortune. But Abeni could not forget the sound of her son's cries as he was taken away.
Over the next decade, Abeni bore 6 more children. Each time, the woman took the child and left behind unimaginable wealth. With every transaction, Abeni's riches grew, but so did her guilt. She moved to the capital, buying vast lands and earning favor with the king. Her mansion became a symbol of her success, its grandeur unmatched in the Nyandu Kingdom. But wealth came with a price. Abeni's nights were haunted by the cries of the children she had given away. At first, she dismissed them as figments of her imagination, but the cries grew louder, more persistent. One night, she awoke to find the nursery door wide open. Inside, the cradle she had once used for her firstborn son was rocking on its own. A bloody handprint stained its edge, and a soft, ghostly cry filled the air. "They're coming back," she whispered, clutching her necklace. As the days passed, the supernatural occurrences intensified. Doors slammed on their own, shadows moved in ways they shouldn't, and the cries of babies echoed through the halls. Abeni began to see figures in the corners of her vision, small, childlike shapes that disappeared when she turned to look. One evening, she found her dining table set for 7. 7 plates, 7 cups, 7 chairs. In the center was a single note: "We are coming." At a royal banquet, Abeni noticed a figure standing at the edge of the courtyard. It was the crimson-cloaked woman, her presence sending a chill down Abeni's spine. After the guests departed, Abeni confronted her. "Why are you here?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The woman smiled. "Did you think you could escape the consequences of our deal?" she asked. "What do you mean?" Abeni whispered. "The children you gave me are not lost," the woman said. "They are waiting." "For what?" Abeni asked. "For their time to return," the woman replied. "And when they do, you will face judgment." Desperate to find answers, Abeni sought out Mama Zuberi, the kingdom's most powerful diviner. Mama Zuberi listened to Abeni's story and shook her head. "You have angered the spirits," she said. "They will not rest until balance is restored." "What can I do?" Abeni begged. "You must journey to the spirit realm and confront them," Mama Zuberi said. "But be warned, the path is dangerous, and the price of redemption is high." Guided by Mama Zuberi's instructions, Abeni traveled to the sacred Baobab Grove. There, she performed the rituals needed to enter the spirit realm. The air grew cold, and the world around her shifted. In the distance, she saw them, 7 children standing in a circle. Their eyes glowed, and their faces were filled with sorrow. "Why did you give us away?" they asked in unison. Tears streamed down Abeni's face. "I was foolish and greedy," she said. "I thought I was giving you a better life." The eldest child stepped forward. "You did not think of us. You thought only of yourself." The children's eyes began to glow brighter, and the ground beneath Abeni's feet trembled. "What can I do to make it right?" she cried. "You must give up everything you gained from your greed," the children said. "Only then can we find peace." Abeni returned to the physical world and did as the children demanded. She gave away her wealth, her lands, and her title, dedicating her life to helping the poor and orphaned. Years later, as she lay on her deathbed, the spirits of her children appeared one last time. They smiled at her, their eyes no longer filled with sorrow. "You have redeemed yourself," they said. "Now you can rest." As Abeni took her final breath, the winds carried her story across the kingdom, a cautionary tale of greed, sacrifice, and redemption.